Hello and welcome everybody to Off Court Connection presented by Hall Pass Media. I am your host, Payton Saltmarsh, and today I am so excited because I am joined by Sports Business Classroom alumni Blake Hairston. Super excited to chat with him in a moment. But like we always do before every show, we want to say a special thank you to all the essential workers, the doctors, the nurses, and everyone fighting to beat COVID-19. We can't thank them enough for their sacrifices each and every day working tirelessly to keep us all safe. We also want to say a special thank you to all the teachers preparing to go back to school who are so essential and showing up and adapting to this new normal. We see you guys and we appreciate you. We also want to acknowledge everyone fighting the racial injustices and working to bring equality. Our hearts and prayers go out to everyone being affected by what's going on in our world today. And we just hope everyone continues to be better. So with that being said, Blake, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. How's your quarantine been so far? How have you been spending your time?
It's been going well. I can't complain too much. Trying to stay out the way as much as I can. Obviously, I watched a lot of basketball film. As I've done some scouting during this time, so just rewatched a lot of games and spent time with my dog and whatnot. So just trying to make sure I'm staying safe, but keeping up with basketball. And obviously, I'm very excited that the NBA is back right now in the bubble too.
Yeah. What teams have you been following? Do you have a favorite?
Um, right now, it's really just been exciting to see that everybody's been back. Happy to see guys like Kawhi and PG for the Clippers, kind of getting everything together with their team. Then just seeing how that rivalry is going to go with the Lakers going into the playoffs and whatnot. But in general, I'm just really excited that the NBA is back. We have some live basketball. We have guys are back healthy and whatnot too. So overall, it's just good to see live pro basketball.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. Feel the exact same. And you just graduated in business with a concentration on sports management, and now you're getting your master's. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and kind of what got you into sports in college? What kind of started it all?
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously, probably like many people, I was an athlete growing up. Sports was kind of in my blood, so I grew up playing a few different sports, basketball kind of being the main one. I ended up going to Adrian College, which is a small Division III college in Michigan, southeastern Michigan, and had the opportunity to play basketball and run track there. While I was there, obviously sports just being a part of my life. Also wanted to study business, concentrating in sport management, and just learn more about the business side of basketball. So, or just sports in general too. So really gave me a good background on that sense academically, as well as just continuing my athletic career. And then from there, just wanted to keep pushing forward and learning more about sports. So I'm actually doing my master's program through Michigan State University, finishing it up this fall, actually. So I'm pretty excited for that. And just learning more about, the best ways to work with athletes, work with different stakeholders within sports, even working with parents, administrators, and things like that too. So just overall, just trying to get a broad sense of sports. And then also joining in with the sports business classroom last summer was a big part of just adding that experience in sports and just kind of getting a good grasp of everything around me.
Yeah. What's behind your drive to work in sports? What fired you up about the NBA? What was it?
Just as a kid, just watching some of my favorite players as a kid and wanting to, be around the game of basketball in general. I grew up, I'm from Michigan. I grew up in Metro Detroit. So the 2004 Detroit Pistons are very close to my soul. And just kind of watching how that team was built kind of led to my interest in the front office of an NBA team and how it functions. And so from there, it's just kind of progressed, learning different things about sports, whether that's in sales, marketing, obviously front office work. Has just pushed me forward and wanting to have that kind of future and career in sports.
Yeah. And that all led you recently to Sports Business Classroom. And that also gives you that front office experience. I mean, you're with front office executives. Can you give a general explanation of what SBC is?
Yeah, so SBC is it's like college for anyone interested in professional basketball or professional sports in general. So you go in, you have kind of a major. The two majors were the salary cap CBA explanations taught by Larry Kuhn, who's the expert, the guru. And then you also have the scouting side of it as well. And so you really get to dive deep in both those two different topics, as well as a bunch of different other topics, like your resume and networking, or just, learning to be a better professional in those different kinds of settings around professional executives and different things. So overall, you really just get a great sense of what it's like to be around professionals in the basketball field, whether that's in marketing, front office, scouting, coaching, and it's an amazing experience. I mean, I can't beat it. It's priceless.
Well, how'd you hear about it? Because it really is so up there. It's the experience. How did you get involved and come about it?
Yeah, so I think it was summer of 2018. I was literally scrolling through Twitter, and I follow the Detroit Pistons, and they recently hired Malik Rose at the time. And so I saw a post saying, "Congratulations to Malik Rose on getting hired to front office of the Detroit Pistons. He was a SBC alumni." I thought, well, what's the SBC? And so did some research, found the website, and it looked like something that was just too good to be true. Something that was right up my alley with my interest in NBA front offices, and also being involved with the Summer League, something that I've always wanted to attend. And from there, just kind of made the plan for the next year to save up my money and attend SBC in 2019. And I actually also had the opportunity to meet Malik Rose at SBC 2019 too. So that was pretty awesome. And I let him know that I found it because of him.
That's incredible. I love that story. It's so unique, and truly it's just an incredible experience. How did you choose your major between the two? Because you said you like more front office stuff, but now you're in a scouting role. So those are the two.
Yeah. So for me, it was pretty easy because I wanted to dive deep more into the CBA and understand it a little bit more. I think I had a really good grasp of the basics, but as I learned during that week, there's so much more to dive into. And Larry Kuhn does a great job at explaining it, making it a lot easier for some people who might be beginners in the CBA. And obviously, he has his website that dives deep into a lot of it too. So that's really what I wanted to focus on. And then scouting kind of has come along the side of it as well, just kind of being able to recognize talent. Being a basketball player growing up, I've obviously watched a lot of basketball, played a lot of basketball. So that's just something that kind of comes a part of it. But I really wanted to dig deep into how players' contracts works and different transactions and working with agents and things like that. So that's kind of what led to that initial decision.
Yeah, you seem like you had a good basketball resume going into it. Was there something you learned there that surprised you, or what really did you dig into there?
I mean, I'd say really just going into the intricacies of the CBA. I mean, there's so many things that I think people don't realize or don't think of. There's many things that aren't very common. You'll see the typical trades, typical signings, draft picks get signed, stuff like that. But then when you get really deep into it, there's so many things that just kind of blew my mind real quick. So that was really interesting, one. And then two, just being able to be around all these great minds around basketball was just truly amazing. And it kind of like, I would try to pick up as many different pieces of wisdom from everyone that I talked to. Everyone was just dropping gems everywhere. So I'm like, okay, wait, let me write this down. Let me get that. So it was pretty exciting.
And they really do have like a versatile curriculum, so many exercises. Can you walk us through some of the work they gave you and then kind of a day in the life of a student there?
Oh, man. Well, the biggest thing that will always stand out to me was the mock draft that they had in person. It was a 2-day, it was a mock trade deadline. I'm sorry. And it was a 2-day thing. And so we got our teams together. My team was the Atlanta Hawks, and we got to be put with a a former front office executive. We were with Brian Paga, awesome guy. And we got to learn about just how NBA teams really want to plan and process as they go into a trade deadline. And that, once again, that was another thing where there's a lot of different things that he was dropping and letting us know that we might want to pick up on. And I was making sure we were doing that. Then day 2, we really got to have that deadline. So there was a specific time that we had to work towards and just start meeting with all the different teams that were in the room. It's really interesting because we were I don't think we had all 30 teams, but we maybe had 20 or so. And they were all in the same room, running back and forth, talking about this trade and this player. So it was nuts, and you got to learn a ton from it. So
I think that's one of the most important parts of SBC is you're around these industry leaders. They bring in the top of the top and just surround you with them all. And you talk a lot about the wisdom that they drop. Can you tell us some of the wisdom you received from them?
Wow. So one of the most memorable things for me, I got to have a one-on-one with Tommy Shepard, who's leading the Washington Wizards right now. And he was one of the most amazing guys, just super friendly, super personable. And he really just made a point for me to realize to be very genuine with your connections and build relationships as much as you can while you're meeting these different people. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have when it comes to meeting some of these people, but also just be personable, be yourself. And I think that was the best thing was, I think being someone who's not as well connected around the league at the time, and it was a little intimidating to meet all these people, but then when you realize you can be yourself, be genuine, and build that relationship, it was huge for me. So just that one-on-one conversation with him it meant the world to me, really.
Yeah, he's such a good guy. And you talk about those emotions of first being there, maybe not feeling like, oh, you're around the top of the top. So yeah, everyone feels that way. What did you feel like when you first got there? Summer League is going on. You have access to that. You have access to all these people. What were your emotions like when you first got there? And you're like, oh man, I'm here.
It was overwhelming. So a little story before, when I got into Las Vegas, I actually came with my dad and my cousin. And so I was hanging out with my dad and my cousin for a while. And oddly enough, my cousin took me to get a pedicure that day. He's like, oh, yeah, all the NBA players get pedicures. You got to do it. So kind of exposing myself on that, but it was fun. And then that night, we actually had the opening to the SBC. So we got to go through the Thomas and Mack Arena. At that point, I was very overwhelmed, but very excited. Started seeing a lot of different people. And we actually were part of the press conference as they were introducing some of the rookies for the Atlanta Hawks. So got to see DeAndre Hunter get introduced. And so that was really a cool opportunity too. So I was like, I don't want to say starstruck. I was more just kind of in awe of everything that was going on, kind of seeing the behind the scenes of everything too. So it was a really cool experience.
No shame on the pedicure. I know a lot of players get them. Royce O'Neal, I mean, I'm in Salt Lake, so I follow the Utah Jazz, and he just got one this week. And they call it taking care of themselves. So it's a form of self-care. So good on you for the 2020 self-care. And when you're there, they talk a lot about standing out in a crowd. Like, you're meant to stand out, and that's a lot of what they teach you. Is there a specific skill or anything that they taught you of how to stand out going further?
Yeah, it's really just about, asking questions when you have the opportunities, doing your research beforehand too. So when you're going to be approached to talking to some important people, making sure you know what you want to be talking about, and just being aware of what's going on. Along with that, just making sure that just have your best foot forward and presenting yourself in the right way too. So really they taught a lot about being prepared as much as possible, and then making sure that you're being yourself, asking questions, really being inquisitive, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. That was another thing in the first night. They had a lot of people come up and do some slightly embarrassing things, but I think it made everyone really comfortable to step out of any kind of shell that they had and just be yourself during that week.
Yeah. And I know you had a lot of great classmates. We'll talk about later you have a podcast with them now. But what is it like being around all these people who want the same things and they all bring different skill sets with them?
It was beautiful, honestly. It was great to just be around like-minded people who kind of thought the same type of intricacies about the NBA as you did. So thinking about trades, free agency, it was around that time last year, and we were all just like our minds were just connecting in all these different ways. And you kind of mentioned earlier, I know I didn't talk a ton about how the days would line up for SBC, but afterwards that night, usually the days would end around 6 o'clock. We would be able to go and watch games. And afterwards, we would go back to our hotel. We'd all hang out in like the lobby in the main areas of the hotel, just talking about different trades, free agencies, different players, different ways teams can be successful. And it was just amazing to just see all these minds connect. And that's how I think how you mentioned the podcast and the draft class, which we'll talk about soon, I think. But that's kind of where it came from, is just all these minds coming together.
Yeah, you have interests obviously that are the same and you bond with each other. And it's, I hear over and over again, friendship for life. And you'll prove that again with your podcast coming up. But guest speakers are also huge. I know you have your one-on-one time with a lot of those higher ups, but how about guest speakers? Was there one that stood out for you, and how do they bring those in? Are there certain names that you remember?
For sure. So from what it seems like with Larry Kuhn is when they see someone out walking around the concourse, they'll let them know that they have, it was I think 80 or 90 of us in a room that are interested in hearing someone talk. And they'll pull them in if they say okay, and they'll talk to us 10, 15 minutes or so about whatever it may be. So it was kind of a fluid week when it comes to the speakers. But I know our first night we got to meet Kenny Smith, got to meet Dennis Scott, also from the TNT and NBA TV group. So that was really exciting. A big one during the week, though, was Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban came in and met with us, talked to us. He was there for a decent amount of time, too, just chatting with us. And you got to really see how cool of a guy he was. Like, yes, he's a rich NBA owner, but he really got to show how personal he is, too. So that was just great to connect with him.
Yeah. And I think you really did make the most of it because now you've transitioned and you're working with the Pro Basketball Combine. You have a podcast with your former SBC classmates. How did that journey come about? How did you take what you learned at SBC and then apply it to, okay, I'm going to go do this?
For sure. So it started when it comes to the podcast with our group from the SBC. After the SBC ended, we knew we all wanted to stay connected some way or another. And so we started about thinking about having some type of publication to where we can continue to talk about basketball. So we started the draft class. And so we're on different social medias, and we have a website where we will write about different topics or have our podcasts about different topics around basketball. And it's just a nice way for us to, one, stay connected, two, push out different information that we want various people to see, and then three, just for us to talk basketball. I think that's the best part about it. And then along with that, so I had the opportunity to meet John Kepchevich at actually our first night. We had a basketball open run at Phase 1 in Las Vegas, and I got to meet John, and he was a part of the Pro Basketball Combine. And so from there, we actually just fostered a relationship. I saw him later on during that week at Summer League, and we just kept in contact after we left Summer League. So that ended up with my role with the Pro Basketball Combine as a scouting intern with them. So I've helped out with writing scouting reports, and also during this quarantine time, like I said, I was looking at a lot of film, and so we got to have these remote film room sessions with different NBA prospects, NBA draft prospects. And so going through them with them, talking about their games, talking about the pros of their game, as well as things that they can improve on and how they can go on into the next level.
That is incredible. That is seriously so interesting and so awesome. Did you know how to write a scouting report going into it? Did they teach you? Did you learn it at SBC?
So I got a lot of knowledge at SBC. So while I didn't have the scouting major during that time, so I didn't get to take the deep dive at SBC, I did get to sit down with Charles. I can't remember his last name, but he was the assistant coach for the Raptors. So I got to have some of that scouting, the scouting aspect of that week. So I got to learn some of that. Wes Wilcox also taught part of the scouting portion during that week as well. So got to take some tidbits from him. But then going into the internship, I had never written a full scouting report before. So it took a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, but I got to talk to John. Jake Kelfer also helps out with the Pro Basketball Combine too. He's the founder, and just working with them, and they gave me the confidence to write some of those reports, and now they're out there for public consumption. So it's been pretty good so far.
Jake Telfer, what a guy. When you say confidence, I mean, it exudes from him. He's incredible. Because you mentioned him, I just want to touch on what else have you learned from him? Because you will be around him and like his energy just pumps you up. He's the best guy ever. What has he taught you?
Well, really, I mean, if you have a 15-minute phone call with him, it'll make you want to like run through a wall. Like you're ready to go. So a big thing with him was relationship building, though. So it was myself, and we had a few different interns during this season as well. And he really wanted us to, outside of promoting the PBC and putting out good scouting reports and things like that, but he really wanted us to take the time to connect with as many people as possible, and not about the PBC, but just about ourselves in general. So, and our interests in professional basketball. So, just working with different people who were, on the same page as us as interns, or people who were executives for teams, or at colleges. I mean, you name it, didn't matter. He wanted us to weekly be connecting with people on LinkedIn, having conversations, and just learning as much as we can. So that's definitely something that Jake gave us the confidence for too.
Perfectly said. He's all about connection and that confidence. He's so great. And while talking about improving your basketball knowledge, being a scout, I mean, you're cutting film into translatable skills of players. How does that improve your knowledge of the game in general?
Well, it gives you an opportunity to just watch and see what areas guys can take into the NBA or into whatever professional realm they want to go into, whether they're going overseas or the G League, and just seeing what translates from college to the pros. So I got to watch a lot of basketball, a lot of teams I didn't expect that I would be watching when it comes to college basketball. But it just gives me opportunity to dig deep and know that there's talent everywhere. And just finding those little pieces of players' games, whether that's how a player plays out of the pick and roll, or how big men play defense around the rim, the different kind of footwork that they need to be successful when guarding a guy like Joel Embiid as opposed to whoever they're guarding in college or something like that. So you're really looking deeper and deeper into players' games, and just finding the specific things that that can help them be successful on the next level.
Before you went into scouting, you talk a lot about seeing these players, but before you had that, was there anyone in the league you watched and you kind of saw come up and then he made it big, and you could go back and kind of dissect his game, and that's kind of what interested you in scouting? Was there any player that really just developed?
I wouldn't say there was in particular that I've watched develop over time. One player, I guess, that did have a big impact this season, and obviously I watched him close because he was part of the team that I watched most, is Christian Wood from the Detroit Pistons. I did do some scouting a little bit years ago when he was coming out of the draft in 2015. Just seeing him out of UNLV, he seemed like a really interesting player, possibly versatile player, but spent some years in the G League and developed his game. So just kind of watching those kind of players, and now that I've been diving deeper into it, I'm excited to see the players that I'm watching today and seeing where they are in 4 or 5 years, to know if they're going to be improving those areas of their games that I think that will make them successful. So There's no one in particular from years ago. I'd say Christian Wood is a good example of it right now, but I think now I've dug deeper more, and I'm excited to see in 2025 where some guys are.
I feel like you've dipped your hand in so many different areas of it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Speaking of 2025, what will you do?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see myself working for a NBA organization. But in general, just around the game of basketball, I love the game so much. It's given so much to me, allowed me to meet numerous people, make numerous connections. So overall, I just want to be around the game and just being happy, building relationships, and working towards something, as a positive career for myself going forward. So, but yeah, ideally, I want to be working for a team and helping them out in any way I can, whether that's scouting, whether that's CBA, whether that's just being an assistant as a coach or anything like that. So, we'll see, and I'm excited to see what the future looks like for me.
Definitely, me too. Do you have any advice for any of the kids coming up that will think about going to SBC, haven't heard of it yet? What would you tell them if they're considering going?
Well, first I would say to go. I've recommended the SBC to so many people now, so I'm really hoping someone decides to go. But it's truly an amazing experience. It's truly priceless. I remember I was reading a testimony before I went, and it said, there's like the cost of it is a little bit daunting when you first see it, but they literally said that it's priceless, and there's an amazing value that comes from it when you decide to go. And I realize that's 100% true. So definitely go. Definitely don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Do some research before you go. Plan on speaking to who you want to speak to, but know what you want to say when you're going to speak to them, and just being yourself and putting your best foot forward. So those are the big things that I would take away, and definitely go to the SBC because it's very much worth it.
And you're going again. It's virtual this year, but you've signed up again, right?
Yep. So I plan to be there. It's this upcoming Monday, and I'm excited to hopefully see some familiar faces as well as see some new faces and meet some new people.
Absolutely. Well, Blake, you're so awesome. I really appreciate you coming on today. Do you want to plug your socials? Because you have the podcast, a lot of different things going. Where can people follow along?
For sure. So you can follow me on Twitter. It's Bleezy Hoops, BLZY Hoops on Twitter, as well as follow the draft class. We're always pumping out stuff, different reports on players, teams, CBA related stuff. I mean, you name it, we kind of have everything for it. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then follow our podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. And then also follow the professional basketball combine too. So we're obviously pumping out a lot of stuff. When it comes to the draft, obviously we have the lottery in about 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. So we're excited for that. Then the draft will be coming up in October now. So also just if you want to stay up on your prospects, maybe you'll find out some guys that you hadn't heard of before, and keep an eye out on them and read our scouting reports, see our remote film rooms, because we put a lot of hard work into it.
Love it. And like you said, everyone go sign up for SBC this year. It's going to be incredible.
Definitely.
So good. You can still sign up too. So it's going to start the 10th. It's going to go through the 14th. Registration is open. You can sign up at sportsbusinessclassroom.com. They seriously have an amazing lineup of speakers this year. Some of the biggest names throughout the NBA, throughout marketing, throughout the WNBA. You don't want to miss it. But the deadline is tomorrow. It's August 9th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So don't forget to go register, go online. Seriously, best thing you'll ever do, like you said, once in a lifetime chance. And with the other Hall Pass Media shows, you don't want to miss those either. We have them every week. There's Basketball Jones with Mark Jones, Pickup Game with Seth Greenberg, Sports Business Classroom. You don't want to miss these either. Amazing guests in and out every week. You can check them out at hallpassnetwork.com. And that is all we have for today's episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Payton.